Assalamualaikum pupils! Welcome to our English subject. I am Nor-hanah Batugan, your grade 5 English teacher from the School of Nor-hanah Elementary School, Marantau 2 District. For today's video, I'm going to teach you the 4 aspects of verb. These are the simple, the progressive, the perfect, and the perfect progressive aspect. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to easily locate them and how they are formed and used in sentence. Before we talk about the 4 aspects of the verb, let's have a brief review first about verbs. Verbs indicate an action or state of being. There are different kinds of verbs such as action verbs, which indicates action. For example, walk, talk, and eat. We also have the linking verbs such as is, are, was, were, be, and been. And lastly, the helping verbs such as can, do, does, did, has, have, and had. Now, what do we mean by the aspects of the verb? Aspects tells the state of action of a verb. It can be simple, perfect, progressive, or perfect progressive. Now, let us study the first aspect, which is the simple tenses of the verb. We have 3 simple tenses, namely present, past, and future tense. Simple present tense indicates that the action is happening at the present time or habitually or regularly done. If the subject is plural, use the base form of the verb. If the subject is singular, use the singular form of the verb. Add s or es to make the verb in singular form. Make sure to look for time expressions that indicates that the action is happening in present time or repeatedly done, such as now, every day, and every month. For example, Anna goes to school every day. We go out of town annually for a vacation. Anna is singular, that's why we use the singular form of the verb goes. And we is plural, that's why we use the plural form of the verb go. Simple past tense indicates that the action happened in the past. To transform regular verb into past tense, add d or ed at the end of the verb. In order to transform a regular verbs into past tense, we're going to add d or ed at the end of the verb. For example, climb into climbed, jump into jumped, kick into kicked, and bake into baked. Irregular verbs is more complex because it involves changing the spelling of the verb. For example, drive into drove, sing into sung, and drink into drunk. Again, to know if the sentence is in the past tense, just look for any time expressions such as last week, a year ago, 2 months ago, and yesterday. Example, I bought 3 apples yesterday. Simple future tense, which means the action is yet to happen. Will or shall is added before the base form of the verb before the future tense. Going to can also be used. Time expressions such as next year, tomorrow, later, next week are used most of the time when writing the future tense of the verb. For example, our family will move to Korea next year. I'm going to cook dinner later. Now, let's move on to the perfect tenses. Perfect tenses describe a finished action. They are present perfect, past perfect, and future perfect. Now, let's have the present perfect. The present perfect describes an event that has already been completed in the present. It may also be used to describe events that took place in an unspecified time in the past. To form the present perfect tense, we're going to use has for singular subject or have for plural subject plus past participle. Example, Abdul has eaten fried chicken for lunch. Abdul, our subject, is singular, so we use the helping verb has plus the past participle of eat, which is eaten. Now, let's proceed to the past perfect. Past perfect describes an event that occurred before a specific time in the past. We're going to use had plus past participle. For example, I had played guitar before I switched instrument with my brother. Another example, Abdul had played soccer before he was moved to the basketball team. Now, for the future perfect tense, it describes an action that will be completed by a specific time in the future. We're going to use will have plus past participle. It doesn't matter if our subject is singular or plural, our formula doesn't change. For example, I will have studied law at the nearest university from our house. Another example, I will have finished eating later at 1 o'clock. Now, for our next aspect is progressive tenses of the verb. The progressive tense is used to indicate unfinished action. They are present progressive, past progressive, and future progressive. The present progressive tense, it describes an activity that is currently in progress. We are going to use the present form of the linking verb is or are plus ing form of the verb. For example, father is fixing the wall. Another example, the two teams are giving all they got to win the game. Now, let's proceed to the past progressive tense. The past progressive describes an ongoing action in the past. We are going to use the past form of the linking verb was or were plus ing form of the verb. For example, I was watching TV when mom came home. Another example, the dogs were barking when we passed by that area. Now, the future progressive tense. The future progressive describes an ongoing action in the future. We are going to use will be plus the ing form of the verb. For example, they will be celebrating tomorrow after school. Another example, she will be entering a prestigious school in college. And finally, the last aspect, the perfect progressive tense. The perfect progressive describes an action that was in progress but was then finished. They are present perfect progressive, past perfect progressive, and future perfect progressive. The present perfect progressive, it describes an action that began in the past, continues in the present, and may continue in the future. We are going to use has or have plus been plus ing form of the verb. For example, he has been singing since he was 8 years old. Another example, they have been good to me even though they are not my real parents. The past perfect progressive tense, it describes something that began in the past, continued in the past, and concluded in the past. We are going to use had been plus past participle of the verb. For example, I had been playing basketball when I was in high school. And lastly, the future perfect progressive tense. It indicates that something will occur in the future and will continue for an expected length of time. For example, by that time, she will have been working here for 2 years. Good job, everyone! Now, it's your turn to apply what you learned today. Get your pens and answer your modules. Keep on learning and see you on our next video.